Welcome to episode 16 of Twitch Tales, everyone. As you know, we left off just at the end of having a short rest with Apes and Mel only just barely recovering after the fight with the twig blights and the needle blights. And we applied one usage of the salve to Mel to help her on her long road to recovery. So what do you want to do now, guys? What sort of things do we want to do? As far as I see it, the options are we can. Let me take you back to the map and show some options. Here we go. So we're roughly here-ish. The options are we can move back to Munglofau, which is about an hour and a half away. We can continue on to the tracks, which is about half an hour away. And then from there, we can either continue up into the Great Expanse, which is the huge, vast area of this forest that we don't know anything about. Probably a very dangerous part of the forest, but it is the direction that these tracks are heading. We can, if we find the tracks, we can head back to the goblin camp. Once we get to the goblin camp, we could either camp there or we could head back towards Shadridge, way down here. We could head to one of these elven villages. It's up to you. What do you want to do? After speaking with Apes after speaking with Mel for the last half hour as we rested and ate some roast rabbit, we learned that she does not feel well. Her insides are mucked up. She could continue. She could keep fighting. She can fly on it, but it's like a constant sort of dull pain within her. So it's going to be an issue to continue to fight with her if we have to. Rob, if we carry Mel, is that resting for her? No, that's still adventuring. She's much too big for us to... If we had like a harness maybe that we could carry her in, then I'd consider it. But it's going to not be very comfortable for us to carry her, for either her or us. We would definitely start risking exhaustion after carrying a potbelly pig-sized bee for a while. Two Bread Tom says, cradle Mel in our arms and whisper sweet nothings to her till she's all better. That'll take 7 days of doing so. I'm happy to do that if you want to do that. But it would take 7 days of cradling and whispering sweet nothings. We have one spell left. Let's use Cure Wounds. So yes, we do have one spell left, as you can see on the remaining of this one single berry on the vine here. We have one spell slot left. We could cast Cure Wounds either on her or us, because we are also injured. As you can see, we have 14 out of 38 hit points. She has 12 out of 22. We are currently still wounded because we are less than half our hit points, so we're showing visible signs of being tired and bloody and things. She's technically not wounded, being just above half her hit points, but what's the word? Comparatively, she actually has fewer hit points than us. It's just that respectively she doesn't. So we could cure wounds, but then we'd be out of spell slots for the day. So if something else happens between where we are and where the hell we're going, we'd have no spell slots to use anything. Also worth mentioning that Cure Wounds, while it would heal hit points, it wouldn't have any effect on her lingering injury. Wraith says we should go to Munglofau, find information, and then go back to Shadridge to rest Mel and talk to Toria and find information from the Knights of Kavosna. Did I get Kavosna this time? Yes, you did. Kevostna. Well done. Boonstabuni says that we should go back to the tracks and carry Mel the whole way. Fancy and FBJX just say yep. Fella says use up all the salve for Mel. This is why we have it. The salve can only be used once every 6 hours or so, though. So we can use it all on Mel, but it'll take another 30 hours from where we are now. The salve is not like a healing potion. The healing potion in our inventory down there, the little red one, that is that recovers 10 hit points if you use an action to drink it. But it only recovers hit points. the salve specifically is only used for lingering injuries. The salve specifically is for healing up injuries that can't be healed with cure wounds. What time of day is it? It's about 3 p.m. or thereabouts, so mid-afternoon. We could brew her some calming tea. We do have a brewer's kit, and we are proficient in brewer's tools, as you can see below me and to the side of me, respectively. We have to go back to the town and wait a week. We could do that game with Granny, yeah. So what I'm doing now, people who are new to the channel, is I'm getting sort of the general consensus of all of the thoughts that are going through Apes' mind, all of the different ideas for what we could do. And if we have like an overwhelming consensus where most people are saying the same thing, then we'll just do that thing. But if we have a lot of different ideas, then what I tend to do is either put it to a poll, where I choose the 5 most prevalent ideas and I get you to decide on it, or I will put it to a single person to decide, to have the deciding vote, by choosing them randomly from the chat. If we use the magic rope to carry her, we could get the magic rope to entangle her, and then we could carry the rope, but the rope can't just fly. It's not a magic carpet. We need to be holding onto one end of it. It's not going to be ideal. We need a medic. Medic! Medic! Bee-sized potbelly pigs would be amazing, yes. In a baby harness strapped to our front. What are they called? There's a word for those. The baby carriers. What are they called? There's a word for that. Is it sensible to stay where we are? Do you think it's sensible to stay where you are, Fancy? Can we brew anything useful? Yeah, we can. Given enough time and ingredients, we can brew. Teas and ales and wines and meads and things like that. If you want to brew potions, that's a route you can go down. I do have rules for brewing potions, but you would have to look into that. There might be more blights. There very well might be. They were releasing pheromones or pollen to try and attract other blights in the area. And in the half an hour since the fight, no other blights have shown up, and the pollen that they were releasing during the fight has dissipated. So you don't think that blights will be attracted to your position specifically. But if some happen to just wander past you, like if this area is flush with blights. Salve and move, FBGX says. Well, we've already salved, so we can't get any benefit from the salve for another 6 hours now. Till this evening, like 9 p.m.ish. Yeah, we could use our rope and a large bit of bark to fashion a sled to pull Mel. Yeah. So Mel can fly and she can walk, just FYI. She's not got any detriment to her fly speed. She can fly. She won't suffer any more damage by flying. And because you're already halfway through the day, even if she rested the rest of today, she wouldn't get the benefit of one of her days' rest yet. It needs to be an entire day of doing nothing but rest. I think Rob would attack us if we stayed there. I'm not going to attack you, Wraith. If you choose to sleep in a dangerous part of the forest, then there is a good chance you will get attacked. Whether or not this is a dangerous part of forest, I'm not going to say. Boonster Booney, create baby carrier out of the magic rope. We definitely could. Yeah, we could have her like strapped to our chest with the rope. I would allow that. The rope is definitely smart enough to tie her to us. Does the salve work? No, it doesn't. If you shake Mel, she's making rattling noises. Yes. Burn everything. It's the only way. It's the only way you know, Fancy. Yeah. Felginol says, if time is of the essence, we should... I don't see why it is. There's no reason to my mind why time would be of the essence. Mel's not going to get any worse. She's just not going to get any better if she continues to adventure. You could continue... Like, if you had a rest and she got back up to 22, she'd be practically as good as useful as she always is. Except for the fact that every turn during a combat situation, she would have to make a check to see if she gets to even act on that turn. All of her other abilities is still fine. All of her movement speed is still there. She can do everything she can do. It's just she has disadvantage on con saves and might not have a turn in combat at all. So if time is of the essence, we should try and take Mel to a safe place and ask someone to care for her, try and confirm they can be trusted, and then venture off until Mel can recover and rejoin her. If time is not of the essence, we should rest together in the closest, safest place. That sounds smart. Resting together in the closest, safest place is definitely an option. Now you just need to debate about what is the closest, safest place. Munglofau is probably the closest, safest place, but would you be welcome to stay there for an entire week? You're an outsider to them. They've not been overly hostile to you, but they weren't exactly welcoming either. It wasn't like the most welcoming of places. But if you were persuasive enough to them, then I'm sure they might let you stay. Much more welcoming than Orichel would be, for sure. Felagund wants to go to Shadridge. How do we get there safely? The only thing that I can think of time being of the essence for would be the longer you leave it, the harder it is going to be to find those tracks again. So if you were interested in knowing what was leaving the goblin camp and where they were going, you would have to follow them now effectively, because if you leave it a few more days, those tracks are going to be gone. How long to get to Shadridge? That's a good question. How long to Shadridge? Let me look at my amazing map to get a good idea of where we are. We are here. It's about an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours south-ish. Give or take a couple of hours. Well, I'd say 7 hours, give or take an hour. Because going through forest, you're not going to have the most direct route. You're not going to be going as the crow flies. So about 7 hours, give or take. And so if you set off towards Shadridge right now, and you had a pretty efficient route and you didn't get waylaid or whatever, didn't stop for any detours, you'd get there by about 10 p.m.-ish, so a couple of hours after dark. After nightfall. Use the salve on Mel and drink the healing potion for ourselves, and then head to town. So we've already used the salve on Mel, we can't use it again for another 6 hours. If we sleep at the travelling hut near the camp, we can get hit points and then go in the morning. That is definitely an option, Felagund. Shadridge wasn't that far away. It's definitely walkable. Archelians went to meet Winglofau. We need some info from them so we can go after the drow, find them, maybe stay a night, and then travel back to Shadridge and rest for a week. Yeah, a couple of people are saying the Dark Elves might be the way to go. What's the bad stuff of going to town and waiting a week for Mel? I no comment, Law. I know what would happen if you did that, but that's up to you guys to decide. I've made clear in my games and in my behind the scenes talks and things that my games my world never stops when you stop. So you can take a week to wait for Mel to heal. That is perfectly fine to do. But I have things going on in the background. And if anything is going on in the background that is time sensitive, even if you don't know about it yet, then that stuff is going to keep going, with or without you. With or without you. Probably shouldn't continue north. We're both injured and have no idea what's out there. It seems far too reckless a choice. It does seem a pretty reckless choice. Will Mel feel better at all on a sliding scale before the full week is out? Yes. So she is currently, you can think of her as being in the middle of 3 options of severity. She rolled a 2 out of 20. So instead of getting a minor injury, thankfully she didn't get a nat 1 and get the most severe injury. She got the serious injury. So after like 6 days of rest, she could potentially, if she's successful with all those 6 days of rest, actually 5 because of the salve. Once she's got two days of rest to go, she will be downgraded to the minor injury. So whether that's with salve or with resting, as soon as she's down to having only 2 days left, she'll be considered as having the minor injury rather than the serious injury. She'll be downgraded from internal bleeding to internal... What did I have it as? Internal ruptures, internal bleeding, and internal bruising or something. I can't remember. It wasn't bruising, because obviously bruising is internal bleeding. Can't remember. Should be downgraded. Potion of internal healing. Let Mel rest. The effect of lingering injury affects combat to the worse. Yeah. If the random encounters are rolled once per hour, then it's wiser to go to the goblin camp hut and rest. You may notice as well, just so that everybody's got the same information, you may notice that I didn't roll random encounters for the journey between the goblin camp and where you were. I did roll the random encounters between where you are and Winglofau and back again. I haven't yet, until that journey, I had never yet rolled random encounters in the Fair Woods. So that's information that you may want to take into account. Since it's late afternoon, the closest town would probably potentially be the best option. We just left that said town, it would feel like backtracking. It would feel like backtracking with Kuna, but also circumstances have very much changed since then. So yeah, it'd be backtracking, but for good reason. If you backtrack, then you will be walking through the portion of forest for which I did roll random encounters. Worth keeping in mind. I don't think when Mel has bellyache, carrying her or torturing her on a rattling sled seems painful. If the goblin camp hut is closest and relatively safe, the goblin camp hut would be about an hour, 2 hours. Goblin camp hut would be about 2.5 hours away, to the southwest-ish. Winglofau would be about 1.5 hours away to the east, through the section of forest for which there is potential for random encounters. Is it likely we could lose the tracks we found? Yes, it's very likely. If you leave it any more than a couple of days, I would say the tracks are gone. Every day that you leave it, the DC to find them again will increase. So with a nat 20 on your survival check and what would you have? A +2, +4. You've got a +4. On a nat 20 on your survival check with a +4, you could potentially still find them again. But the DC eventually will get to 25, and even with a nat 20 +4, you're not gonna be able to reach it. Two Bread Tom says we could just let Mel rest and construct makeshift camp defenses while she rests. There's a lot of information happening, a lot of different possible options. I'm going to need to make a poll about this, but I'm trying to just narrow down the five most common suggestions here. Apes would definitely want to help Mel the most, yes. As we know about Apes and who they are and the personality we came up with them for them and how we've been playing Apes up until now, it is not hard to imagine that the thing that's most important for Apis is to make sure Mel is okay. Mining town, adventure hut. Don't want to stay with the drow for a whole week. The Orochel are coming there later today, apparently. That's what they said. Shadridge is the best bet. Alright, so I think the options are Winglofau, continue following the tracks into the expanse, go back to the goblin hut, the one that's near the PEA hut, the traveller's hut that we've stayed in once before, or head straight back to Shadridge. Is there any other option that I'm thinking about? Winglofau, Great Expanse, the PEA hut, or Shadridge? Oh, stay where we are, I guess. Stay where we are is the fifth option. Because we could try and set up camp exactly where we are so that we don't have to move anywhere. We have marked the trail. That's how we marked the trail before we left from Winglofau and then came back again. Mel's injury is not hindering her travel speed. Hard decision, everybody. Who'd have thought that 87 people making a decision for one character would ever be a difficult thing to do? What is Apis' alignment? From the way you've been playing them currently, I would say lawful good. But it's descriptive, not prescriptive. So don't make your decisions based on the fact that Apis is lawful good. You make your decisions based on how you want to play Apis, and then from your decisions we decide what that means for your character. Are we getting too far from places we've been? Yes, we are getting further and further towards the edge of the map. If we continued 1 hour further north, we would be at the edge of the amazing map. M-Town would be more dangerous. Yep, in order to go to M-Town, it would be potentially dangerous. We are about 3... How far behind the chat am I? Jeez Louise, you guys are yakking. Can you show that on the map, Rob? Sure can, Boonster Booney. I don't know what map you wanted to see on the map, but here's the beautiful map. You are currently here, making a decision. Do you want to go to Mwinglofau, which is here? It's the closest town that you know to be safe, but it is also an hour and a half through woods in which you were just attacked, so you don't know how safe it's going to be. Do you want to go back to the trail and then back to the goblin camp and then over to the hut, which is about here? That's an option as well. So directly from us to the hut would be about 2.5 hours. Do you want to go directly south, which would cut the corner? It would be a longer journey, but you'd be able to make it to Shadridge by the end of the night. Or do you want to just stay where you are? Or do you want to continue up here to the Great Expanse and hope that there's somewhere safe to stay around here? Those are your 5 options, I think. FBGX disagrees, does not think Apis is lawful good. What do you think Apis is, FBGX? Oh, yeah, they're more, I'd say neutral good, actually. They haven't been the... They did snap a goblin's neck, tie one to a tree, kind of half torture them. It was, yeah, I wouldn't say torture, actually. It was caused them injury in their capture of them. I would say Apis is probably neutral good from how you've been carrying. Yeah, there we go, neutral good. How many uses of a salve? 5 uses of a salve left. Yeah, lots of unnecessary looting. That removes the lawful, I'd say. All right, time for a poll. It's a pretty important vote, so I will allow you 5 whole minutes to vote on it. If you don't know what one of the options is, don't vote for it until you've sort of asked in the chat. You want it to be an informed decision to make, guys. The poll is currently open. You can make an informed decision about what to do. Shadridge is about, I'd say, 7 or 8 hours to the south. The Goblin Hut is about, the PEA hut, as I've written it there, is about 2.5 to 3 hours to the southwest. Mwinglofau is about an hour and a half to the east, but through potentially more dangerous forest. The Great Expanse is everything to the north of you, but is potentially very dangerous. You don't know what is there. It may be something very helpful or safe. You don't know. That's the riskiest choice. But no risk means no reward. So, and staying where you are there's some risk to it, but whatever you want to do. Shadridge is safe as you know, KJ. Like, who knows? So in the 8 days since you were last in Shadridge, it might have been burned to the ground by a red dragon. You don't know. But the last time you left it, 8 days ago, it was a pretty safe place to stay. It's a tiny little sleepy town on the edge of a forest. About an hour's walk from the edge of a forest. Mel last injury is only a hindrance in combat, yes? Correct. If Mel gets into a combat, she may just have no action on her turn. Yes, that's right. Going all the way to Shadridge is very dangerous. Potentially. Go to the hut, then Shadridge. Yep, the hut and then Shadridge might be a good idea. The elves may have healers. Not really, Servanty. We've been there before. We know that they don't have much in the way of healers. Dolbin Iluad would be your best bet for healers, and we've spent a lot of time there already, and they don't. They've got people who are good with healing potions and salves and things, but nothing that would be able to extradite. Extradite? Expedite? Expedite, that's it. Not extradite. Extradite is extracting people who are wanted in another country. Better not be giving goblins more bad press. Hey, I'm not giving goblins any bad press, Spirit. It's the goblins that are doing that. I'm sure if you talk to the goblins, they'd be able to tell you what they're doing from their point of view. And from their point of view, it's the Jedi who are evil. The elves have salve. That's mostly it. Yep, the elves would be able to potentially use some of their salve on you. But they might also ask you to pay for it because they've already pretty much settled with you. How injured are we, Raging says? We are at, I think, 14 points of 38 in HP. Yeah, 14 out of 38. So we're wounded. We're below half our health. Our giant bee companion is at 12 of 22, but also has a lingering injury, which gives her a disadvantage on con saves. Are there healers in Shadridge? Not to our knowledge, fella. Shadridge is only a very small town. It's probably a small village, in fact. It's probably got about 100 people there. It's a sleepy little place. Not a lot of things happening there. There's like 2 farms. There's 1 tavern/inn, a mill, a couple of shops, a blacksmith. Imagine if this were really how people made decisions, just like 90 people arguing chaotically in his head every time a decision needs to be made. It's how it feels sometimes, to bread. Please don't go all the way back to Shadridge. There'll surely be some consequences. I like that this is why we decided when we were creating Apes, we gave Apes the personality trait and the flaw of being indecisive and inconsistent with their actions, because they're just like, in a few seconds, all of these things have been flashing through Apes' mind, going, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I make the right decision? Last time we tried to talk to a goblin, it didn't work out so well. No, it didn't. It managed to try and count on their goblin fingers. Only an orc deals in absolutes. All right, so with an underwhelming majority that just eked out the other option, 42% of Apis is in favour of going to the Penkempur and Amgleshed's safe hut, which we know to be about 2.5 hours south of here, southwest. 39% of people said to go to Shadridge. So I think going to PEA for the night, resting up, and then going on to Shadridge the next day is probably going to be most people's option. With only 8% of the vote was to go to Mwinglofau Caves, the elves. 8% of the vote, same number of people actually said to go to the Great Expanse. And only one person said to stay here and make a safe camp for ourselves. So Apis is very indecisive about what to do, but ultimately a good 81% of them, 81% of their mind is decisive on going south one way or another. It's just that half of that 81% wants to go to the hut on the way. So that's what they'll do. Don't we all have 90 people in our heads arguing on what to do? Yeah. Can we get more salve in Mwinglofau? Mwinglofau don't make salve. They get it from Dorbin Ilawad. Is that not how your decisions are made? Alright, so the hut it is then. And that's why every count votes. Strike that. Reverse it. Every vote counts, guys. We were only 1 vote away from going to Shadridge rather than the hut. Technically 2, I suppose, but if one of those was a swing voter from the other one. Apis is indecisive, but ultimately comes to the decision that they cannot continue north. They are too unfamiliar with what is held in the Great Expanse, what comes from the Great Expanse. And in particular, if they're going to be attacked by trees and bushes that, until they started literally tearing a bunny rabbit apart and eating its blood, they just look like regular bushes. They just look like... Apis could smell that there was something in the air. Something didn't feel right. They were suspicious about something following them. But every time they turned round, they didn't see what was following them because they were looking for a creature. And it was a tree that was standing among trees. That thought worries Apis and makes them decide to get out of the Fairwoods possibly as quickly as possible, or at the very least, get back into the area of the Fairwoods where they are more familiar. So they grab out their magic rope, the rope of commanding, and they give the command to animate, and it starts to come alive like a snake with a snake charmer. And then they gently pick up Mel and sort of cradle her to themselves, and then they give the rope the command to entangle, and it wraps itself around up and over the shoulder and down below the arm, across the back of Mel and down around the back, up and over the shoulder like backpack straps. And over the course of about 6 seconds or so, Mel is somewhat tightly held to our chest. Not tight enough to crush her or cause damage, but it's there, and it's preventing her from having to walk or fly. And with that, Apis sets off south. Couldn't see the trees from the forest. That's right, Sparrow. For 80 plus people making a decision an hour and a half into the game is not too bad. I want to see a picture of this. Miss Bowman's calling for fan art of Apis cradling I almost had it, the word for one of those baby carriers. Somebody want to help me out? What's the word for one? I'm sure plenty of you are parents. You all know. What do they call? There's a name for those baby carrying things. Apis has got Mel in one of them. A baby Bjorn. Thank you, fella. Bjorn, that was the word I was looking for. A baby Bjorn. Apis has got Mel and a baby Bjorn, and they set off south through the forest. Because we are heading back to the goblin camp and we want to get there as soon as possible, Apis is not going to go directly back west towards the tracks that they left for themselves, but instead is going to kind of cut the corner a bit by going southwest from where they are. They're pretty good. They're an outlander, so they know directions really well, especially when they're in a forest. So they're making sure to keep a track of the weather and where the sun is in the sky. Things that I don't actually know in real life, like which side of the tree the moss is growing on, and that tells you something about which direction it is, something like that. Apis knows all that stuff, even if I don't. And so with that, they can keep a good idea of which direction southwest is, and they keep walking in that direction. Where's a pram when you need one? That's right. The north side grows the moss, Wikuna. Is that in both hemispheres? Moss grows on all sides. I have heard that before, Fancy, but there is definitely something to the moss growing more on one side, more on the moist side or something. It's to do with like which side the sun is on, right? I imagine Mel swinging her bee legs as Apis walks, looking around curiously while babbling in basic French. Oh, zut alors. Or rather, zut alors. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Keep looking at the tree at least 3 ahead to stay in a straight line. Oh yeah, that makes sense, Centauri. In the southern hemisphere, moss rotates counterclockwise. What, on the tree during the day? It just like moves around the tree. In Scotland, all the sides are the damp sides. That does make sense, Fancy, actually. And you don't see the great ball of fire in the sky, so it doesn't really matter. In the northern hemisphere, the moss grows on the north side because the sun moves around to the south, warming up the south side of the tree, right? That's the idea, isn't it? Moss is on the moist side of it, so in the northern hemisphere, the sun never hits the north side of the tree. Pretty sure that's the idea. It takes about 3 hours of walking to... Actually, I'm going to make a survival check, and with that, it'll help me to know how on track, how direct Apis is moving. Skill. Survival. Because we are a ranger and we're in our favoured terrain of forest, I'm going to add twice our proficiency to the roll. So I'm going to roll and then I'm going to add another 2. Skill serve. We got a nat 20 plus 4 plus another 2 because we're in the forest and that's a favoured terrain. So with a 26 survival check, Apis is feeling onto it. They have got a spring in the step. They know where they're going. Everything is falling into place. And they're not only that, but they're able to very quickly ahead of time plan out what route they're going to take down this particular wet hillside, or up this bit of a cliff face, or how to get across this stream and whereabouts is safest to cross. That water's moving a bit rapidly, so it means there's probably a waterfall coming up, and yep, sure enough, there's the waterfall, so I'll cross down there instead. And all of this, Apis keeps this in mind. They've got their eyes going at 100 miles an hour trying to find any dangers around from the trees. They're smelling things to make sure that this pollinated weird needle plant creature is not going to grab them again. And after that, Apis managed to make a beeline straight for the goblin camp. Sure enough, they find it without too much trouble. And after only about 2 hours or so, they've made it. They've made really good time. They make it all the way to the hut that they once stayed in a few nights ago. The hut, for those who don't know or need a reminder, the hut was it's a bit like a log cabin. It is a simple chalet that is built out in the forest on a bit of a makeshift trail, and it has been built by the faction called the Penkempur en Amgleshed. Apis as a ranger knows that it's a bit of a rangers guild, actually. Rangers guild. It's a bit of a rangers guild. Druids also often find themselves in the Penkempur en Amgleshed. The name of the faction is Elvish for wilderness warriors, or the guardians of the wild, that sort of thing. Their whole purpose is to try and maintain the balance between civilization and wilderness. Keep those things from overcoming one another. So one of the things they do is create these little chalets that travelers through areas like the forests can use, so that they don't have to chop down trees and make an entire camp and set campfires, which may actually cause even more danger to the area. So they set up areas that are easier for you to use, and they try and maintain them as much as possible. The goblins in that camp were doing the rounds, and they came across this chalet, and they ransacked it for anything that might even be potentially worth anything. But we have stayed there one night with Mel and didn't have any issues. The stream is the most exciting thing to happen to me since I discovered VLTL D&D. I love Europe. Thank you too, Brett Tom. It's not even an exciting episode yet. Nothing's happened except making a decision to go and stay in a chalet. So we make it to this log cabin. It seems to be exactly in the situation we've left it in. The door is slightly off its hinges from when the goblins broke it in. The amenities inside are all, anything that wasn't bolted down is gone from the goblins. But there is that little Z bed in the corner. The door is still usable enough that you can close it and bar it with something, put something against it. Last time we did this, we had a hunting trap on the inside in case something attacked us during the night. But we get there with about an hour left of daylight. Given the time of year it is, it's sort of mid-spring, getting early spring, I'd say, like the first month of spring. In fact, if I look at my timeline, I can tell you that it is currently the last few hours of the 21st of Eulabris. Eulabris is the first of 3 spring months. And so we're getting towards the end of mid to late Eulabris. So early spring, the sun goes down about 6:30, maybe 7 on these days. And you've arrived at the hut at about 5, maybe 6 o'clock. So you've probably got another hour or so of daylight. What do you want to do? Now that you're here, you feel like you're safer. You definitely have an area that's indoors, away from the weather, where you can place Mel, and she can rest on the bed. Have some dinner. So what do we want to have? We've got rations. We can eat rations, or we can go out hunting and try and find hunting and or foraging and try and find food in the area. So we get into the cabin, we open it up, we give the command word to the rope to release, and it just loosens itself, and we quickly catch Mel and place her down on the bed, and she kind of groans a little. Thank you, Apes. I know that I cannot have been very light to you. She wasn't actually too bad, given that she has to fly on tiny little wings that physics say bees shouldn't even be able to fly. So she obviously can't have a lot of weight to her. And as a dwarf with a +1 strength to our strength modifier, she wasn't that much of a hindrance. She wasn't exactly comfortable, and we might have to do some stretches of the back now that we've put her down to try and there we go, crack the back a little more. But she was fine. We could have held out for a little while longer if we had to. We sit her on the bed and we try and make her comfortable. And then we have a look around the cupboards to see anything that the goblins didn't steal. We can find a couple of plates and cutlery items. And then we decide on what to do for dinner. Do we make it to the Pizza Hut? What do we want to do? We want rations. If we've got rations that we can use, or we can go out foraging and hunting. And did we not forage on the... No, not with Mel on our belly and the speed that we were going to try and get back to safe ground. We wouldn't have been foraging. We would have waddled. Waddle away. Waddle, waddle. Rations? Yeah. All right. So we don't want to risk going out on our own. We're tired. We're still technically wounded ourselves as well. We're below half of our hit points, so we're not feeling the best. We've only got one of our 3 spell slots for the day, so we don't want to risk encountering anything. We just close up the door, put our belongings like right up against the door. We get the magic rope and tell it to tie itself back and forth over this door to some sort of furniture on either side of it. And once we feel like we've secured ourselves as best we can, we crack out the rations. We try and make them less eating on the go kind of food and more presentable food, I suppose. And we treat ourselves to a ration dinner. Do we have anything for Mel to eat? She's got, I suppose, flowers and things. With the last of the light, I'll say that we go out before we've locked up the door and everything. We go out. We find a bunch of flowers and we bring them back for Mel to nibble on the nectar as needed. Lay our caltrops out. That's a good idea, Wraith. So we lay our caltrops as well. We get the bag of caltrops that we bought from the hunter recently, and we lay them out on the outside of the door or on the inside, like so that people will burst in and stand on caltrops. Is that the idea? Giving Mel some crackers? Yeah, we could try that. Stick them on the inside so that people, if they burst in, will stand on caltrops. Cool. So we'll do that. We'll spread them on the inside. Eat our rations. Secure the place as best as possible. And then right before we go to bed, we've laid out our bedroll and everything on top of this bed. Manipulated Mel down to the bottom of the bed. It's not a very comfortable mattress, but it'll do. Better than sleeping on hard ground, I suppose. Right before we go to bed, we open up this pot of salve. Presumably, I'm assuming that that's what everybody was talking about doing, salve, right, as often as possible. If we can do another salve, then we can reduce Mel's resting time by another day. But I don't want to make that assumption for you guys. You can put a little yes gauntlet if you want to use a salve, and a little no gauntlet if you don't. Those are my emotes you should have access to. Yes. FPGX, definitely yes. Yes. I think we should start brewing potions while we're here safe. Yes, we could try that, Bread Tom. The problem is we don't know the first thing about brewing potions. If we got a potions book, then we might be able to research how to brew potions. We know how to brew drinks at the moment. We know how to brew mead and ale. We know how to distill water. We've got a few more hours of the night, so we could actually do some brewing if we want to, or some panpipes. I forget using caltrops, use D4s. Look at all these yeses. Everybody's yesing. So nobody is against using salve. So we grab out the pot, open it up, and I'll reduce that 5 to a 4 now that we've used another usage of it. But Mel is down from needing 8 full days of rest to only needing 6 days of rest at the moment. And if tomorrow she does nothing but rest, like nothing that can be considered adventuring, then she'll, at the end of the day, that might have ticked off one of her 6 days. Can we make lemonade? We could try. Does tea or ale have any beneficial effects? Not mechanically to the game, no. On the to-do list, find a book on how to make potions and salves. Yeah, add it to the to-do list, Raccoona. Wraith was the only one who said no. After already yesing. Make fire arrows. We could do that. Mel's all slippery now. A slippery bee. All right. We have a few more hours of the night. We can just have an early night and go to sleep, or if you want to do anything else for downtime activities, you can let me know. Wraith is in favor of making fire arrows. How do you suggest we do that, Wraith? I know how you would do that, but I want to hear your ideas. Is there such a thing as an extra long rest? Not mechanically, Gus, no. The way you suggested, with tar and bitumen from one of the torches. Yes, okay. I forgot that I'd actually said that already, right? Torch tar on the arrows. Yes, okay, cool. That's a good idea. So shall we do that? Give me another yes or no. If you want to use some of our torches, like take all of the tar off it, so obviously we'd be using up the torch, so I'd have to mark off a couple of torches. But we'd cover the head of a few of our arrows in the torch from them, and then we can light them and fire arrows. Yes on a few. Yes. Just a couple of arrows, yes. Philogun says 50% of them fire arrows. I'll say that we've got about 19 arrows at the moment. Yes, but sparingly. How many arrows from one torch? I'd say from the amount of tar and stuff that you get on one torch, you'd probably get about 4 arrows. Yes. All right. That is overwhelming yeses. So I will reduce the torch. That's one of the things that Apes does with their downtime then, as they're talking with Mel. They take one of their torches and they scrape off all of the tar and the bitumen and the stuff that's wrapped around. They take the cloth that is wrapped around the end to get to the tar that's in the middle, and then we scrape it off and we spread it over the heads of some arrows and keep those arrows in the same quiver. We've only got one quiver, so we'll have to just remember which ones are which. Here we go, red fire, 4, boom. So we've got 4 of our arrows are now fire arrows, and those ones I will keep a track of. Our regular arrows, I'll try not to worry about it too much. Where are you? Arrows number, down from 19 to 15. We can always make more later if we have to. Yep, correct. How do we light them quickly? That's a good question, PsyQ. So it takes an action to use your tinderbox to spark some flint and steel onto a torch and get it to light. So it would take the same to light an arrow. If you already had a source of fire, then obviously it doesn't take much to just chuck your arrow into the fire and then fire it. I would just say that as part of the drawing the arrow action. So if in advance of the fight or something in which you needed to do so, you like stuck a torch in the ground and you use your action to light it, and then you've just got a torch flaming next to you, then I would say that dipping your arrow in the fire is all part of the same attack action. But if you don't have anything lit and you want to light your arrow, then it would be an action to light an arrow, and then it would be a further action to actually fire the arrow. Are there any birch trees in the forest? Good question, Cervante. People who know more about trees than I do birch trees grow in the UK? Because where you are currently is the geographic equivalent of the British Isles. So I don't know what trees I don't know anything about. I'm really behind the curve on my botany knowledge. I don't know anything about plants. So whatever trees you would find in forests around the UK, that's what trees you can find here. Tie something to the fire arrows to differentiate them from regular arrows. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, that makes sense. Apes is very intelligent, +3 intelligence. So they tear off a little bit of strip of, what have they got? Oh, I suppose the strip that comes, the cloth that's wrapped around a torch to begin with, so that doesn't go to waste. They tear it off and tie just a little bit on the end of the 4 arrows that are fire arrows. Copy paste the arrows, turn the pick 180 degrees. I don't want to, like, it's taking up the same space in the inventory, so I don't want to add extra arrows because it'll take up extra space. I've kind of, to a certain degree, tried to keep your inventory items relevant sizes to the items themselves. Echo Song's got to go to bed. No worries, Echo Songs. Just got a bunch of flowers. Use those to differentiate them somehow. We gave those to Mel to eat, though, so that she had something to eat today. Felagund wants 4 more. What do you guys think? We want to stay with 4 arrows? We want 4 more, since we're doing them anyway. Looking at our inventory, we have a healing potion. What are its effects? So with a healing potion, it's a light healing potion. So if you use an action to drink it, you recover 10 hit points. If you use a bonus action to drink it, you're not being quite as careful with it, and so you're splashing some of it maybe, and so you only recover 2d4 plus 2. So you might still roll 2 4s and get 10 hit points, but you might roll 2 1s and get only 4 hit points. So out of combat, you would obviously just drink it carefully as an action, and it would recover 10 hit points. But they're not cheap. It cost us, well, they normally cost anywhere between like 20 and 50 gold pieces. Birch bark is good for a temporary torch. A 2-inch strip or about 2 or a foot wide will burn. A 2-foot strip about 2 inches wide will burn for about 20 minutes. Is that right? Cool. Are the arrowheads made of steel? I would say probably stone. It's not really the iron. I mean, you have access to iron, obviously, iron and steel, because we've got lots of weapons made of it, but I don't think it'd be very cheap to make iron or steel arrowheads in this day and age, would it? I don't know. Could the arrowheads made of steel, could we attach some flint to our bow so firing the arrows sparks them alight? That sounds pretty cool, but I think it would be very unlikely to do so, because there'd be a single spark, and the sparks would be kind of trailing the arrow. Light a torch, then light all the arrows. Yeah, I would say so. And then burn everything. Burn it all. We torch Mel. I mean, give her a burning torch, not torch her. Birch grows there. Cool. So then, yes, you can find birch. Regional but present. Can we MacGyver our bow to light these special arrows? It would have to have flint that would scratch the arrow every time you fire it, even if you're not firing regular arrows. Four more. 4 is enough. I think 4 is okay. If we use these 4, we can always make more. Okay. Most people are saying no, Felagund. You're outvoted. Rob's just slow. I'm trying to catch up, but you guys are talking a lot. Feeding Mel with some flowers only will make her even lighter. Poor hungry Mel. She's a bee. Bees eat flowers. And they eat nectar, obviously, from the flowers. What else do bees eat? If you can tell me what else bees eat, Apes can go and find some of that. Happy with 4 for now. 4 would be enough. What's the lucky horseshoe do? It allows a reroll once per day. We've already used it today, but as of dawn, it will reset, and we'll get 1 reroll of any d20 or damage roll. The arrowhead never connects with the bow sparrow. Yeah, that's true. Unless you're firing it really wrong. You need to tell us more amazing storytelling stuff, because we shut up when you get in the zone. Good point, Wraith. Everybody shut up. Here comes some story. Play your panpipes. All right, that's a good idea. So last thing we do on the with the knight, because although we are wounded and tired, like exhausted tired, we're not really sleepy tired yet because of the circadian rhythm. So we're not ready for bed just yet. We've eaten, we've prepared, we've got some fire arrows, we've talked to Mel a bunch about what we're going to be doing. I've just spent a couple of hours just in silence, just doing the arrows and things, because it's nice to just recharge social batteries, and Mel is not in a particular place of conversation. It's just nice to share each other's company in silence. But then eventually we think, you know what, I feel like playing the panpipes. And so we get the panpipes out and we ask Mel if she's okay with it. And she says yes, she's fine. And so we get the panpipes out. I'm going to make a skill check with the panpipes to see if we are any good with them tonight. We are proficient with them. Skill. We are proficient with them, so that's going to be... It's going to be a charisma-based panpipes check. So it's basically a +3. So I will do I'll just do skill charisma and then +2 to it. Oh, actually, do we have... Oops, that was a slash skill, not an exclamation mark skill. Did you make a panpipes thing yet, Fancy? I don't know if you did. Panp. No, you didn't. We could probably just do one of those skill, Fancy, if we don't have too many commands already. You can make an exclamation mark skill panp, because it is a panpipe skill check, and it's just a +3. Skill charisma +2 to whatever this is. Oh, nat 1. Oh boy. Oh, that's hard. Oh, we do have inspiration. We have an inspiration if we want to re-roll that, because currently we're getting a 4 on our panpipe check. Nat 1 +1 plus our proficiency for panpipes. So we're getting a 4 on our panpipes check. We're almost Bax level of playing here. Do we want to use... We don't have Lucky Horseshoe Wraith, but we do have inspiration. Pans and panpipes, cooking and music, making belly and ears hurt. Yeah, man. Our cooking is always the worst rolls, and our panpipes are never much better. I want some yeses and nos in the chat. Do we use our inspiration to re-roll that, or do we just go with the worst panpipes music we could possibly play right now? Bax is super good at music. Don't you ever say otherwise. I thought you'd missed my dig at Bax for a second there, FPGX, because it took you a while to comment. Better to roll shit on that later than something important. Alright. Does inspiration go away with the long rest? No, it doesn't, Wakuna. Inspiration stays until you use it. But unlike the horseshoe, it doesn't come back on a long rest either. Mel's never going to say yes to us playing panpipes ever again. You see, this is funny. You see this FPGX? You see what's happening here? This is how normal people... This is how the majority of people deal with getting a nat 1 on something that is consequenceless. Something that's just like fluff and flavour. Something performative. But in her campaign, in FPGX's campaign, there is a character that took... the player took the lucky feat when he designed the character. Specifically told himself when he took the lucky feat, he's only ever going to use it for stuff like this. Because it's so important to that character that he is performative and he really does know how to perform really well. And so he would definitely, without a doubt, have used his inspiration on that nat 1. But every normal person, every other person's like, no, it's not important. We'll save the inspiration for something more important. But not Lagan. Lagan would have definitely used that inspiration. In fact, he did once as well. There was a time when he used inspiration and one of his lucky points to reroll twice and still got shit roll, and it was distraught. For all we know, Mel thinks our terrible playing is fantastic. We don't have bee ears. Yeah, we don't hear what bees hear. We throw the panpipes in the fire. Lagan's the best. What a character. We're too tired and worried about Mel to play the pipes properly. Yeah, we'll blame it on that, I suppose. It's like doing a recital for your mum. She's going to love it no matter how goddamn awful you are. Yeah, but not when your mum's suffering from internal bleeding. So we try and play, but our mind's on other things, and we're tired and exhausted, and we're missing notes. And eventually, Mel says, Apes, could you maybe put that down for now, please? It's just I really need to rest. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mel. I don't know what I was thinking today. Just my mind was on other things. Of course, yeah, I'll put it away. And she goes, thank you. Maybe in the morning I'll feel better. I hope so, yeah. And then you kind of rub her on the back a little, and then you snuggle down into bed. And you start your long rest. No one never here needs to hear screechy notes when they're in bed in pain, that's right. Missing notes on a panpipe. Yeah, you can miss notes on a panpipe if you move it too far along and you hit the wrong one. You've missed that one, haven't you? And if you've missed the you hit the instead. That's how music teachers teach panpipes, by the way. I'm a totes profesh music teacher. Me like recitals with kids playing recorders. Drool down the pipes. Apes is trying to play them upside down, and so they're all at different heights. What is happening? Hey, Roby B, 148. Good to see you. Drummer Girl says she teaches recorder and had a class of 45 kids. Lord Almighty. Oh, I do not envy you. So we have a long rest. We get all our hit points back. Nothing attacks us in the night. I'm going to go over to my Roll20 here and set us back up to full HP. 38 hit points. And Mel goes back up to 22 hit points. In the morning, do we use another salve on Mel? Yes or no? Choose your emotes now. Yes or no? More salve. We've got 4 uses of it left. With 4 uses left, we're down to almost half a pot. If we use a salve right now, we'll have used half of this pot on Mel, but she'll be down to only needing 5 days of rest. Salve till we get to Shadridge. Yeah. Automatic yes. Look at all these yeses. Yes, 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 yes. Yay! Yay from Gamer Granny. Yes, 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 yes. Awesome. All right, so the yeses have it. There's only one no from Sparrow, unless it would get her to the lower level. I vote no. It won't. Doing this will not get her to the lower level directly. But it would make one more step towards the lower level. She currently needs six full days of resting. We're playing the character, Rob. Of course Apis would help. Yeah, Apis would help. That is correct. You gain inspiration for that. Oh, you already had inspiration. Oh well. If only you'd used it the night before. You would. So salve goes down to 3. We're half the pottle down, but we've helped Mel a little more. She's starting to feel a little better. She's still got the issues, and she says it is It is starting to feel a little more easy to move. I think I can fly today, no problems. I don't need to be strapped to you, but if we have to move fast, I think if I have to turn corners and move quickly, if the stress of a fight comes out, then I might overwork myself then, but I definitely need to rest a little longer. But I think I should be okay. Apes will always help an animal in need, that is correct. Wakuna, it's only my second TT and I'm helping. You are, Wakuna, you definitely are. Point of order, are insects also animals? Yes, they are, Felg, in real life and in D&D. Insects are types of animals. They are in the animal kingdom. So she's even more slippery now. It does absorb into her psyche. We're not just putting layer upon layer upon layer of salt onto this bee. She's still making crackling noises. Yes, well, this is how she talks. So after the long rest, we're back up to our full hit points, but Mel still has the lingering injury. After the application of salve, though, she only needs 5 more full days of rest in order to recover from this injury. After 3 more full days of rest, or I should say, when she gets down to only needing 2 more, then she'll be downgraded to the less severe, less serious injury. So what do we want to do now? We wanted to head to Shadridge, is that correct? Can I get some yeses or nos in the chat as to if that is your goal for today? Like first thing on day 12, the 22nd of your Labras. Are we going to Shadridge? Yes. Or are we not going to Shadridge? No. Insects are fish. Insects are technically fish. Oh no, wait, insects are not. Everything else is. Humans are fish. Since I'm new, what is in Shadridge? Good question, Wakuna. What's in Shadridge? Shadridge is a small, sleepy little town, about 100 people or so, where there is a couple of farms, a mill, there's a blacksmith, there's a baker, our friend Franklin, he lives there. It was the first town that we went to on this campaign, and it is where it's where Mel lived. It's where Mel came from. She lived in the apiary, the mead farm of Mr. Jack Creed, who was murdered by goblins. It's where we were. It's where we set off to find the goblins from. We told the people in Shadridge, I'll go deal with those goblins, and I'll come back and tell you what happened, how I went on. And that was over a week ago. And we haven't been back to Shadridge yet. So one of the reasons for going back to Shadridge is because it's a safe place to rest, hopefully. Another reason is that we haven't informed them of what we've found in the last week, so we need to do that. Another reason is to catch up with our friend Franklin, maybe. Everything with a spine is a fish, that's right. So most people are saying yes, 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 Shadridge, yes, 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 yes. Only a couple people are saying no to Shadridge. But they are vastly outnumbered by everybody else. So Shadridge it is then. On the way to Shadridge, we could go via the bank, the river bank, and pick up some of our stashed gold. Should we do that? Finding a book on potions is a good idea if we want to get into potion brewing. Toria, Knights, Rest, Reward. Yeah, good idea. We have 35 gold pieces stashed in a rock by a river. We know where it is. It's fairly close to Shadridge. It's fairly close to the edge of the forest that leads to Shadridge, so we could get it on the way. Potion book from Sally, Franklin's lady friend who has lots of books. She does have a lot of books. He said that she likes to read, right? Yes, get that gold. All right, gold it is then. We don't know what the bounty is and could need to come back to the bank anyway. Yeah, good point. Most people, again, are saying yes, but it's not quite as overwhelming or unanimous here. Yes, stop off and get some gold. No, just go straight to Shadridge. We currently only have 10 silver pieces on us, so if we wanted to buy anything in Shadridge, it might be worth having some gold for it. Grab all the money? Maybe. And for anyone who's new to D&D in general, to give you an idea of how much a gold piece is and things, as a general rule of thumb, I think about a copper piece as being about $2 American. A silver piece is therefore about $20 American, and a gold piece is about $200 American. So having 35 gold pieces is about the same as having $200 times 35, which is a lot of money. That's $7,000. So if we wanted to carry that around with us, the reason we had it stashed in the first place is that we know that goblins are in the area and other things that might want to rob us. I don't think we quite need a pole sparrow, because from the yeses and nos we can see that there is much more yeses than there is nos. It's just not quite as unanimous as it was before. The yeses still have it though. So on our way, we set off south. Let me pull myself back over to the map to give myself an idea of where we're going and how long it'll take. So we're about here. We'll go about an hour, 2 hours, about 2 hours south, 2.5. Yeah, let's say 3. So 3 hours south to get to the stash of gold, and then another hour and a half to get to the edge of the forest. Probably don't want to be carrying all our gold on us unless we're taking it somewhere to spend on armor or something. Yeah, armor's expensive and you need a lot of it, so taking it somewhere to stash it, taking it all to buy that would be a good idea. But having it all on us is not potentially the best idea in case we get pickpocketed or robbed or something. Make it gold. Gold. Alright, so we spend about 3 hours going south. We eventually find the river that we know to follow towards Shadridge. And following this little stream, we eventually get to the crook in the brook, where there is the rock and the crook of the brook. And we go around to the back of it. We find the little plug of moss that looks like it's kind of growing up the side of the rock, but it's actually just a plug of moss that we've stuffed in there. We pull it out, we reach in, and we find our hand clasps over nothing. So we go a little deeper, and oh yeah, there it is. And we pull our hand out with the leather, and we open it up, and our 35 gold pieces are there. We've got our 35 gold pieces. How much do we want to take? A lot of people were saying 5 gold. How do I want to do this? Let's go poll, and let's see how much we want to take. Where's my 4 option? 2 pi. You want tau? You want to withdraw tau gold pieces? Pi gold. Well, each gold piece is a round coin, right? So there's pi involved in there somewhere. So be sure to remember that the sort of thing that you might want to buy, books aren't necessarily cheap, because somebody in this day and age has to hand write them. There's no printing press. When was the printing press invented? They didn't have printing press in the medieval ages, did they? Medieval sort of Middle Ages. Printing press was in the 1400s, was it? So I think in certain parts of this world, like the big cities, they might have printing presses. Like the monasteries might have a printing press, or the kings might have printing presses in their castles and things. But for the most part, books are still being written by hand and copied by hand. So how much should we get out? Armor. If you wanted to buy some new armor, a chain shirt is 50 gold pieces. If you wanted to buy some general adventuring equipment, I'll give you some ideas. Like, you can buy 20 arrows for 1 gold piece. You can buy a bag of ball bearings, 1,000 ball bearings for 1 gold piece. You can buy a candle for a single copper piece. Robes are 1 gold piece. Fancy clothes, fancy fine clothes are 15 gold pieces. That's like expensive finery that you would wear to the king's ball kind of thing. A hammer is a gold piece. A tinderbox is 5 silver pieces. Some rations for the day is 5 silver pieces. A flask of holy water is not 25 gold pieces, because that's fucking ridiculous, and I refuse to make it that much money in my games. So I haven't actually come up with a price for... Well, I probably have, but I don't have it in my notes for this, because you don't need holy water. A blanket is 5 silver pieces. A backpack is 2 gold pieces. A vial of acid is 25 gold pieces. I think that would be less than my world as well. 50 feet of hempen rope is a single gold. A quiver is a gold piece. There you go then. With 52% of the vote, 5 gold pieces it is. So we take out 5 gold pieces. With 32% of the vote, people were voting for 10 gold pieces. So I'll split the difference, and we'll take out 7 gold pieces to try and appease both. So and obviously with 10 silver that equates to 1 gold. So we've got about 8 gold pieces on us, just a touch above 8 gold pieces. So we should be able to buy most small things for that. We don't need holy water. We know protection from evil and good, and it would probably be handy to know. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, holy water hasn't come up is what I meant. Like, I haven't got my notes on how much holy water costs because I haven't expected you to buy it. Maybe 10, but 2,000 is a lot to carry around with you unless you don't tell anyone about it and don't flash it around. Yep. You could always try and like stick it in your boot or something and whatever. So we go to our it takes about 3 hours of walking. As we're walking, we're foraging, we're making sure we've got rations, which is why you'll see that I don't put a number on rations. Because as an outlander and a ranger with favoured terrain forest, wherever you're in a forest, it's assumed that you can get a lot of food. You've got enough food to support yourself. Whenever you head out of places where it's easy to forage, if you headed into a desert or something, or the Arctic, then I might start tracking rations. In fact, I definitely would start tracking rations. But wherever it's in abundance, I'm assuming that you're foraging while you're walking. We have stuck coins in our boots in the past, yeah, back in episode 1, I think. Circus Assassin did that. Yes, to cast our Holy Protection from Evil and Good spell, it requires the powdered metal that we have down here in our inventory. You can see 9 uses of powdered metal. So we can cast that spell 9 times before we need more. As a ranger, how does Apis learn magic? So we have been in the past learning it mostly from divine blessings from the gods, but also some influence from nature itself. It's often been coming to us in prophetic dreams. We learned one spell from just studying it from a lady who knew protection from evil and good, and we kind of like studied her notes on it, and we can now cast that spell because of it. So it comes from a lot of different sources. What did we leave? Yes, we left the hut to bread, and we headed to our riverbank where we withdrew 7 gold pieces, and then we wrap the leather back up and we stick it back in the pouch. We stuff that moss plug back in, making sure that nobody's watching us. And then we set off south, about another 2 hours walk to the edge of the forest. Nothing attacks us on the way, no random encounters. So it would probably be just after midday by the time we get here. We arrive to the tree line. We walk out of the tree line and see the back of Jack Creed's apiary. We see the little doghouse kind of kennel looking thing on stilts that we know to be the giant beehive that Mel lives in. We see the back of the white manor that was Jack Creed's house and now probably belongs to Toria. And beyond that, we see Shadridge smoking. No, we don't. Nothing overly jumps out at us as having been an issue in Shadridge. There's not a green haze on the horizon as we arrive at the tree line. That memory for Apis of arriving back home, back to Shafgushul where they grew up, and seeing their town just deserted and destroyed and covered in this green mist that was hanging in the air from the poison dragon that had destroyed the entire town, we think. We kind of have that in the back of our mind as we arrive back at the village, but we look out and we can see Shadridge on the horizon, and no, it doesn't seem to be destroyed, not visibly from this distance anyway. So do we want to stay here in Jack Creed's farm / Toria's farm, put Mel in her cabin, her little beehive where she has lived most of her life, or do we want to head back into Shadridge proper, which is about an hour's walk away? Let the poor girl have a rest at her home. Go knock at the door of Jack's house, see if Toria's in. See the town the next day. We're here for a few days, yeah. After visiting, go to Shadridge in the afternoon. It is, yeah, it's about noon when you've arrived here, so you've got the rest of today if you want. If you roll, I will allow for this day to still count as a day of rest for Mel. If she spends the rest of today resting, I'll just increase the DC a little bit because of the morning, having flown throughout the morning. She's technically been adventuring, I suppose, for a few hours now, but I'll allow it, just with a slightly difficult DC. I should remind people, especially because there's some new people here, I should remind people the ins and outs of how Mel is going to overcome her injuries. Mel is our giant bee companion, for anyone who doesn't know. Lingering injuries. My homebrew rules for lingering injuries is available to certain Patreon tiers as well. If I just want to put a plug in there that you can support me financially on Patreon and also get some perks such as finding my homebrew rules for things. Internal abrasions, that's what I was trying to remember earlier. Mel has currently got internal bleeding, which gives her disadvantage on constitution checks and saving throws, except for those required for concentrating, because that's in the brain, not the gut. And at the start of each of her turns in combat, she must make a DC 5 constitution saving throw, or her turn is just lost. Once she gets down to a low enough level, once her injury is sufficiently recovered, she will be downgraded to just internal abrasions rather than internal bleeding, which is still disadvantage on constitution checks and saves, except for the concentration, but she no longer has to make the check at the start of every turn. So then she'll be much better to, much likelier to be good in a fight. In order to get better, the treatment, it requires a period of time to rest for, or sufficiently high level magic. To just rest, self-care. In order to successfully rest, you must take part in nothing more strenuous than simple interactions, sleeping, reading, and eating, etc., for a full day, while also receiving sufficient nourishment and shelter and things. If you do so, then at the end of your next long rest, you may make a medicine check against the DC listed in the table. A success will count towards a specified number of days needed to remove the effect of the lingering injury. For Mel, that's currently still 5. Upon the assistance of another character, if another able character also spends a full day doing nothing more strenuous than tending to your needs, then at the end of the next long rest, either one of you can make the medicine check, and you'd have advantage on doing so. So if you wanted to spend this whole day just tending to Mel's needs, then you or her can make a medicine check. You would have the higher wisdom, so you'd actually probably be better to do it. You'd have advantage on the check, and you'd be more likely to reduce her rest, her needed rest by 1. Also, it's probably been about 5 or 6 hours. So since you set off this morning, it's probably about time that you can use another salve on Mel if you want to. As you arrive at the farm, you can actually use another salve on her if you want. You've got 3 left. You're down to half a pottle. Put a yes if you want to use the salve. Put a no if you don't want to use the salve. It will reduce her need for rest from 5 to 4. I don't see a reason for dragging Mel through town. People just mostly can't talk with her, and Mel needs to be fondled by the beehives. Could both Mel and Apes do it and take the higher of the rolls? Yes, that's how it works, Wraith. You can't both take a roll with advantage. You have to choose which of you is making the roll. That person gets advantage. Royal jelly for the cure. Yeah, man, we need some royal jelly. All day sitting around checking on her queens doing absolutely nothing. That does sound like a good day of resting, yeah. Yes, 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 yes to the salve. It's currently unanimous. Sounds like if you combine dual rest and the salve, this could be finished in 2 or 3 days. Yep, she could be back. If you used all six pottle entries, then she could be back to her feet in like a day or 2. All right, it's no longer unanimous, but it is overwhelmingly yes. Please do vote if you want to use the salve or not. And if you're not a subscriber and you don't have access to my yes and no emotes, then you can do what Gamer Granny's done and use the inbuilt Twitch yay. Oh, it's fella yesed already. Fella just wanted to. Fella's just trolling. Of course he is. Evil. Of course. So it is actually unanimous. All right. So salve it is then. So we're going to try and as we get back, we take Mel to the wooden chalet that she grew up in. Literally, she grew to the giant bee-sized. And we make sure she gets in there comfortable. We get some hay. We put it in there. We notice that the hay that nothing has been changed in this little chalet, this little hut. Obviously, no bee lives in this massive hut anymore. All of the other bees, with all of their independent queens, live spread around the farm. There's no reason for anyone to have dealt with this this chalet in any way. So we pull out the dirty straw and we try and find some more for her. We try and make a comfortable kind of straw bed for her to sit in. There's also like honeycombs around the walls that Mel has made over time, so she kind of like nestles into one of the larger honeycomb things and uses that to sit there. And then we remember, oh, it's probably about time for another dosage of this. So we unscrew the lid and we apply the salve, which takes our salve number down to 2, but it takes her days of rest required down to 4. She only needs 4 successful days of rest now. How easy or difficult is it to get more salve? It's not a common item, it's an uncommon item, but as such, you can find it in most magic shops, you can find it in most hospitals. The further from the source you go, the more expensive it's going to be. So we bought it directly from the source, and it cost us about 10 gold, but that was with a heavy discount of like mates rates. And then because we went out and did another job for him, he knocked off the last 10 gold and gave us it for free. But he was willing to sell us it for 10 gold, and that was buying it directly from the source. That was what do you call it? Wholesale. So buying it retail, you might be paying like 25, maybe even 30 or above for a pot of salve. So Mel needs 4 more full days of resting. This is potentially one of those days, but it is about noon now. Felogund, for reals, I'm planning on using it all. I don't want to lose the tracks up north. That's understandable. The longer we are away from the tracks, the harder it is to get back to them. We may not have much salve left, but the question is, would Apis use the salve on Mel? That is a good question, Wikuna. Like, don't think about how much we've got left and how much. It's put yourself in the mind of Apis. I'll let you know about who Apis is and how they make decisions, and think, would they use it? Yes, they would. But you guys are Apis, so Apis's personality can change over time. Maybe they won't care so much about animals in future if the majority of people who come to play as Apis don't make decisions where Apis cares about animals. People can change over time. Mates rates equals 6,000-ish gold. Yeah, you did a lot of work for that town, and they wanted to really repay you. I don't know that I would have voted yes, but Apis would. That is a good point, Drummer Girl, and good on you for not metagaming. You're playing the character, not the game, which is how D&D should be played, in my opinion. It's how you get the best D&D, is when you're playing the character, not the game. Don't think of it as a game. Think of it as a story. You're telling a story together. Do what's right for the character in the story. In other words, we'll never get Y more salve in this playthrough because we don't buy anything anywhere and got no money. Yeah. I feel like those tracks will lead us into more random encounters and we'll end up in the same position as now again and again. Potentially, Rafe, potentially. But by then we might be level 4. We're getting pretty close to level 4, I think. The practical solution would be to use the salve and find a way of making more for if and when we need more. Yeah, if you look into like potion brewing and things, you could potentially start to make more salve. You've got an idea of how the salve is made. Not to the point where you could actually start to make it yourself, but you did talk to them about how they make the salve, and they told you the process of how they do it. They just didn't they told you it in the way of a curious tourist rather than like a student. They didn't tell you the intricacies of how you actually make it. They just told you the general process. So it wouldn't take you long to learn how to make a salve, and then you could try and train yourself to do that over your downtime and whatever, if that's the direction you wanted to go. If you wanted to go into like the potion brewing route, I have rules for it all. Apes is Legion. Ask Mel if she even wants us to use it on her. She says yes, she does. She doesn't feel well, and it's making her feel better every time you use it. Remember that in my games, you only get lingering injuries when you fail a death save by a certain amount, so they don't come up often. As long as you don't fail death saves, you're not likely to come up with more need for salve. But anytime you do fail death saves, there's a chance you're going to have a lingering injury, and you might need more salve at that point, or just rest. If Apes makes it to a point to study the salve as they use it, it may improve their ability to craft it. Yeah, maybe. Can we steal Dolben's prince? Probably not. Even if we knew how to make the salve, would we even be able to get the parts of the flowers needed, considering there's only one town that grows them? There's not only one town that grows them. There's only one town in this area that grows them, but you can find other places to get prim flowers. Alright. Not commenting. Like to save the last bits of salve for life and death situations. Fair enough. Well, in 6 hours' time, you'll get the choice to make that decision. If the ingredients are rare, they are. We can search for merchants who have access to them. Yeah. So wait, we decided we're going to take the whole day to rest with Mel and tend to her needs, right? Well, that's the decision to be made at this point, Tom. We've just arrived back at Creed's farm. We put Mel back into her hut to rest. We've applied another dosage of salve, and we're saying, right, what are we going to do now? We are now no longer with Mel, unless we choose to be. While Mel chills out in her beehive, we go up the garden towards the back door of the back porch of what was once Jack Creed's house. And as we approach, we see that the doors are locked, or closed anyway. And as we try them and knock, we know that they are closed, they are locked. We go around the front of the house, we make our way around the side of the house and up the front, up onto the porch, past the ivy growing, that's really nice, growing up over a trestle, up onto the overhanging, there's a word for that, isn't there? The bit that overhangs the porch. Isn't there a word for that ceiling? It's like a little roof. Can't remember. And we walk up to the front door, boom, 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 boom. And we wait, and we wait, and we wait. Boom, 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 boom. Awning, that was the word I was looking for. Thank you, Cinderfingers. Boom, boom, boom. No answer. We try the door, it's locked. We go to the windows. Boom, boom, boom. Toria! Toria, are you in? We walk over to the other windows. Dun, dun, dun. Toria! No sign. Doesn't seem like she's home. So either she's not home, or she's ignoring you, or she's can't hear you, or she's left. So what do you want to do now? Take the hidden key from the pot on the right side. Make an investigation check. Let's have a look. See if we can find a hidden key. Skill. Investigation. 12 plus 3, 15. There's no need for our fancy ranger ability to apply here. So it's just a straight 15. We have a look around. We don't find any hidden key on the veranda. We don't find it on the porch. We don't find it by the steps. If she's got a hidden key, we don't find it. Set fire to her house, see if she's home. I want to talk to her, not sneak into her house. The thing you do notice, though, is that the front door has been replaced. She has a front door that is lockable now. We do have a mystery key that could get us in. It's got a 5% chance of unlocking the lock and then immediately disappearing. She repaired the door, yeah. Break a window. Got into trouble once with our mum for breaking into an old man's house once before. That is right. Apes is 53, and when they were 40, so 13 years ago, Apes broke into an old man's house because they were intent on finding out information. They were trying to solve a mystery, and when we went back and told our mum about that, she admonished us severely. If you want to see that in action, you can watch towards the end of the Halloween special. Any signs of her being around lately? What sort of signs have you got in mind, Felagund? What sort of thing would you be looking out for that would tell us whether she has been here or not? She doesn't have a letterbox that's overflowing with letters. Can Mel talk to the bees and ask if she's still here? Potentially. Mel can speak with the bees in the way of like normal bee language, so she can like do little dances with her butt to talk about where flowers are and what's a predator and things. I don't think that the bees would be able to tell Mel specifics. But Mel's also not really in a place where she wants to be showing weakness to the people under her command, really. Use our lucky horseshoe to break down the door. Find a person nearby. The nearest people would be the people who live in Shadridge proper, which is about an hour's walk away. Use a check to see if there's anything gone that would tell us she's gone. Well, with our 15 investigation check, there's no dust on the porch. We wouldn't expect dust to be on the porch because it's out in the open and the weather would take care of that. There's no muddy tracks up the steps or anything like that. We've peeked in the window and we can't see anything in the front windows, so we go back around the back to the kitchen door and we go through the kitchen window, and there's no dishes left out in the sink or anything. There's nothing. We don't see any signs that anyone has been here or left in a hurry. So we go back to Mel's hut and we say, we're not. There's no sign of Toria, I'm afraid, Mel. She's not at home, or she's not awake or something. I'm sure she. Although, to be honest, it's middle of the day, so she could just be in town, maybe. But I don't see any sign that she is around. Is there any way you can like talk to the bees and see if she's like been around? And Mel says, yes, I probably could do that if you want me to. And then she kind of like heaves herself back out of the this honeycomb that's built into the wall and lands in the pile of hay and stretches those wings out again. And you step back and she flies past you out into the open. And you see her fly off towards one of the closer beehives. And she lands on this beehive and you see her start to like wiggle and dance and does a little dancey wiggle with her bum. And she turns around and does all of this bee language stuff. I'm going to see how well. I was just going to roll for it. I'll just roll on here. She eventually, after about 2 minutes or so, she comes back and she says, she flies past you and lands on the inside of this cabin, and she says, I don't. It was inconclusive. They are not sure when she was last here. It was hard to talk to them about specifics. speak a language per se, and so they don't really know how to transmit complex things like how long it has been since someone was here or something like that. So I got from them that they have not lost any honey or honeycomb in the last 3 days. So at the very least, she has not taken any honey from them in a few days. But I do not know whether that means she is here or not. I'm sorry. And then you say, oh, no, it's okay, actually. And then she sort of clambers back up into this honeycomb and has a little sleep. And you hear the wings stop beating and she kind of wraps herself up again. Fella says, we could spend the day with Mel to make that medicine check for her and then check Shadridge in the morning. We could go off to Shadridge in the morning, yep. It takes about an hour to get to Shadridge, so we do have time to get to Shadridge, but doing so would mean that we can't make the medicine check on Mel's behalf. Take care of Mel, wait her out, get the better roll on the medicine check, yep. Yeah, we could do that. I've got Mel's stats printed out down here. I finally decided to print her out so that it makes one less monitor to look at when I'm in the middle of a fight. So I'm not going to just outright tell you her stats because she's a different character to you. But I will say that you've spent enough time with her to know that she's probably not as good with medicine as you are. You never... KJ's just put together that our bee friend is Mel B. Mel is actually short for mellifera. Mellifera, which is the Latin word for bees. Apis mellifera is a European bee. She should still be around. Medieval times information travelled slow, and Toria said that she was okay to wait and see what Apis came back with, so she would have waited more than a week, taking travel times into consideration. That's what that part of Apis' mind thinks. All right, so with the last few minutes, what are we going to do, guys? I'm going to put it to a vote. Actually, give me some ideas in the chat of what sort of things you want. I know that Fella and a couple others are saying like spend the rest of the day tending to Mel and then go to Shadridge tomorrow morning. Obviously, another option is to not do that and to go to Shadridge immediately. What are any other options? Those are the two options I'm thinking of currently. Stay and help Mel with her medicine for the rest of today, go to Shadridge in the morning, or go to Shadridge right now. Therefore, Mel would have to deal with her own medicine check at the end of the day. Is there any other option? Stay here on the farm, but don't tend to Mel. Worst of both worlds. Stay for now, Shadridge in the morning. Climb up onto the porch roof and look up in the upstairs window. Burn everything to the ground, that's another option. Just those two. I think that is just the two main options, isn't it? So I'll start a poll with just those two options. Play an impromptu panpipe concert. Should we do some panpipes, guys? Is panpipes a good idea? Do you reckon Apis would want to do some panpipes for Mel? While they're recovering in severe pain, sitting there. Oh god, I've got such hurt. I'm so hurting on the inside. Oh no. Like, let's help you out. Whips out the panpipes, all different sizes, getting it the wrong way around again. She's a bee. That doesn't seem biologically possible. What doesn't? Panpipes. I've got to start another poll. Can I do two polls at once? Panpipes or no panpipes? Juggle various items. See if we can juggle. Do a performance check. See if we can juggle a healing potion and the rest of the salve and our brewer's kit, the glass of jars that come in our brewer's kit, and smash. Drop everything with a nat one. Wipe out the drool. Blow down each of the panpipes. Clean out all of the drool. Break out that brewer's kit, steal some honey, make some mead, and then panpipes. Yeah, there's actually a decent home brew. This is like a travel brewer's kit, obviously. But there is actually, we replenished this by stealing from Jack Creed right after he died. When we were still new to playing Apis and not a lot of people were making choices in character. We looted a dead guy's house. and took a bunch of his brewing kit. But he has got a brewing kit here still, provided Tori hasn't moved it or gotten rid of it or whatever. Can we have a poll to determine if we want a second poll? Sure thing, Mabdeno. But then the poll would be, do you want a third poll? Let's cook and play music. What could go wrong? With our proficiencies? Panpipes. It'll either be better or the panpipes will fall apart and put everyone out of their miseries. Alright, so with 87% of the vote to tend to Mel and go to Shadridge tomorrow. So Apes decides, yeah, Shadridge can wait. We're safe now, we're out of the woods. If we get attacked by creepy plant monsters now, at least we'll see them coming, Macbeth style. And so Apis decides to tend to Mel. So for the rest of the day, I'm gonna do a little panpipes thing. Apis goes back to their own house, back up to the house, not that they can get in. But Apis goes away from Mel's in case the panpipes are terrible, and does a little skill check for panpipes, which Fancy has of course added during the session because Fancy's amazing. Even though it's like 5 o'clock in the morning and she should be in bed, she's still here adding commands for me for free. Can I get some hypes for Fancy being so awesome? Our panpipes, however, not awesome, because that was a natural 2. One better than yesterday, though. So thankfully for Mel, our panpipe playing is just shit. It's just shockingly bad. We got a 5 total panpipes there. Thank you for adding the panpipes, Fancy, just so that we can. Oh my god, Apis is so bad at this. It's definitely like Bax level. Although we're meant to be proficient in it, we're meant to be okay at this. But hey, never mind. At this point, we're questioning whether we're proficient in it or not. Yeah. We decide that we made the right decision to stay away from Mel. And then for the rest of the day, we sell the panpipes. This is not our calling. Exactly right. So nobody tips us. Nobody comes out of the woodwork to tip us. We get stung a couple of times from the bees nearby going, fucking shut up. And eventually we spend the rest of the day tending to Mel and her needs. And we camp out near her. We have a long rest. And in the morning, we get to make a medicine check on behalf of Mel. We have the better modifier, so we're going to be the one to make the check. And we're going to do so with advantage. So I'm going to go skill medi, and then I'll do skill medi again if it's not a nat 20. Ooh, that was a 12. 12 plus 2, that's a 14. With advantage, let's see if we can get even better than that. Skill medi. Ooh, the second one was not better, so we'll go with the 14. 14, let me go up here and see if that is enough. What's the DC? Ooh, do I want to be nice? Do I want to not be nice? Because the DC on my table for internal bleeding is 14. But she didn't technically spend the whole day. She didn't technically spend the whole day resting, as it says she has to. I will say... I did say that I was going to increase the DC, but I will not. I will say I won't increase the DC from 14 because of the morning spent not resting. I will be nice. For the end of the session, I will be nice and say that is just enough to tick off one more day of rest needed. So we've now used 4 salves on her, taking her down to 4 days of rest needed. Then she succeeds on 1 more day of rest, so she's down to just needing 3 days more of rest. And a lot of people want, like during that day, we could have used salve once more during that day. So I assume that everybody was doing that, yeah, because that's what most people were saying. Give me thumbs down if you don't want to use salve. Otherwise, I'm just assuming, as we did before, that we do want to use the salve. I was thinking he was going to say, find out next time on Twitch Tales. Yeah. I'm not the worst for 5 whole minutes. Alright, nobody's putting thumbs down, so I'm going to assume that is unanimous that we have used another usage of salve during the day. So we are down to only needing 2 days of rest, which reduces her from internal bleeding to internal abrasions, and that decreases the DC of subsequent checks. So we have only one more usage of salve left in this bottle. In the morning we can use it again to get it almost back to normal. Our health is perfectly fine. Her health is getting much better. She's feeling much better. Now all that she has is disadvantage on all constitution checks and saves, except for concentration checks. She no longer has to make a check at the start of a turn to see if she can do it or not. During the day that we were tending to her, nobody came back to the farm. We didn't see Toria for the rest of that day or throughout the night. In the morning, we go to check on Mel. She says that she's feeling much better, and we decide to set off towards Shadridge. And that's where we're going to leave it. I'll pick up there next week on Twitch Tales, episode 17. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you then.